Edwards on the drive, goes inside the floater. Turn him over again. Booker scoops it up. Booker brings the boom!
What is up, everybody? Run Pure Sports NBA Hardwood show. We got no Big T today. He lost his voice, basically. So he asked me to come in from the bullpen on a no days rest. So here to break it down with JSU. Yeah, he gave a little tap, gave a little sign, and I'm in there now. So, hey, no Tony. Hopefully we'll have him tomorrow for you guys so he gets his voice rested up to give you the golf winners. But JSU, of course, we have you to break it down, and you can take up all the time and talk about the NBA for hours and hours. So there's no need to worry about no Big T. But JSU, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. Well, I will say this, as good as it could be when you have like 80%, 85% Jaren Jackson last night. So, you know, as good as it can be for having that much of a guy who played 1 minute and got hurt. So, you know, we take that, we roll with the punches, man, going, and it's on to, what do you say, on to Seattle, on to this slate here. So that's what we're going to do, on to the next 7-game slate. And at least this one, only an hour and a half gap in between lock and the last game locking here. I kind of wish they would just take it even further, man, going and make it that hour personally. I like that 7 to 8 window, I think is perfect. If you can give me 6 games, I think 6 is plenty. Like no difference between 7 and 6, in my opinion. Is I think it would be better if they're not going to go to like. Obviously, they're not going to go to like no late swap.
Yeah, I don't disagree. You don't have to add that extra game. So I'm kind of okay with everything you're saying there. I will say this: can't blame Big T for being late. That's not true, Donnie. I am blaming Big T. You know why? I was not supposed to be on the show. Okay, I had a doctor's appointment. I get a text from Big T, and he tells me to be on. And you know, I got things I got to do. I had to just crank it all out a little faster. And you know, before the show, I was basically choking, and I ate my food too fast. So. I'm still blaming Big T, JSU. Is that okay?
I'm cool with it. I think that it's soft, that Big T, even with, you know, a raspy voice or a lost voice, couldn't find, you know, the guts to jump on the show for the people. So I respect that Mangone, you know, had to, you know, hurry everything else he had going on up because he wasn't supposed to be on and just, you know, tap in. He was called in. You know, he was like that gif where the guy's just running, just straight running back from the doctors, the gym, whatever else Mangone was doing. And I can attest, he almost threw up in the StreamYard room with me, like just sitting here. Like I at one point, he just like massive noise, and I literally thought he was going to puke. So I can attest to everything Mangone's saying, and I agree. It's Big T's fault. 100% agree. It's Big T's fault. So yeah. Also, though, I got to give you shit now because I did watch the show yesterday and I did watch you let Big T just bully the shit out of you on Draymond Green. And you just, Mangone, you can't even take the victory lap because you needed to just go in on it with Draymond Green. He should have been your play of the day right after that first initial spat. It like instantly, that's your play of the day. You own Big T. He drops 48. What was it? Big T's like, there's no way he gets 40 or something like that. What was he setting the over-unders and stuff? It's fine that you needed to go in on him, though. So I'm trying to do it for you a little bit. But damn it, Mangone, you should have capitalized on that and just went after him. We could have been reaming out Big T on this show.
It was a missed opportunity, but JSU, you know, sometimes you're just not in the mood for it. And I kind of didn't see it coming. Like I didn't see him just shooting in there on that one. It was like the Aaron Nesmith shit. Like I didn't make this like strong stance on him being like an amazing play to kick it off, and then he just attacked me. I was like,
yeah, but that's like a shitty player though. At least Draymond like is like one of those like He's like a fringe, like, solid guy. See, I agree. I hate when he does that with like the shitty plays where you're like, hey, listen, I'm just hoping he gets me like, a decent score or something like that. When you're talking like the fringe guys, like that, the guys that can give you like 35, 40, 50, you know what I mean? That's where you got, it's different than Aaron Neesmith is what I'm trying to say. But damn it, Mangone, you should have went in on him. You missed an opportunity for it. I wish you made him your play of the day just to own Tony. But by the way, what you were saying about the power forward spot was very, I don't even know why he's not power forward. It's absolutely stupid that he's not power forward on DraftKings. But what you were saying about him yesterday was fact on that slate, a shitty power forward slate. But he's only center, and I wish you went in on him. You missed the boat.
It was a missed opportunity, but it is what it is. Also, forward shitty on most slates. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I don't think people realize how valuable that like mid-tier forward position is. So, if you find guys,
know why forward's terrible, Mangone? You want to know why forward's terrible? Because they're all friggin' out or questionable every slate. I feel like it's like, literally. I feel like they're all like questionable or out on every slate. Like yesterday's slate, if you look at like the top forwards, a bunch of them had Q tags or out next to their name.
Yeah, and not only that, like that's why you got so much Jaren Jackson yesterday. Not to rub salt in the wound to anyone. I mean, I had a lot too. But you just look at if you look at the slates.
You know what happened though, Mangone, was when we got the Cam Ward, Reed Shepherd, I reran everything, and I jammed those guys. You know what I mean? I jammed those guys. I got like 90% Cam. I could only get like 30% Reed, at that time. And that was like me jamming them. So like it was spending up in all these other spots. So it must have been spending up at power forward like a ton, right? And so I just got Jaren Jackson a ton at the power forward position. So I get why I had it, but
and Jesse, here's a great example why. So our boy in the Discord chat won 100K last night, Mr. Ty John. He had a huge night winning 100K. Here's his winning team, JSU. SGA and Sharp, clearly, good guard options. Cam Whitmore made the pivot to that. Keontae George, the one guy without a flame is not Keontae George, sorry, Keyshawn George. Keyshawn George was on the winner yesterday without a flame. Everyone else has a flame. Drummond, flame, Bane, Bam Adebayo, Reed Shepherd. Point is that I'm telling you that you don't want to like punch your forward spot unless it's like a Cam Whitmore right out of nowhere. You want to live in this like 5K range, 6K range. It's a good spot to kind of build your teams. So that's my take on it, JSU. I'll die on that hill. I think it's the right one. And Sean, you are correct. There is a Madden stream lock in an hour, and there's a game on right now, and we're currently having a good day. So don't you worry. We'll make sure we get the lock in and everything like that. All my teams are done, so we're good on the Madden streams. Roddy, you also hit for 50K last night. So congrats on the hit to you. It was nice to see that. You had Draymond Green in your lineup, Roddy. I don't know if I helped with that, if my fight with Big T helped. I hope it did. But JC, isn't that funny? The day that Big T makes fun of Draymond Green over on the other site, that's not our sponsor, he's on the winner.
I will just say, Rod can't give you total credit because you didn't go in on the Draymond Green, but maybe you helped him, say like, oh, your man goes right. Like, a really good play at forward. I'll go play him on this other site. Not as good of a site, obviously. Hashtag DK partner, but that's all right. At forward, right, Mangone, and get the giblets that way. So shout out to Rod. I know Rod. He's a good dude in the Discord too. He's a good man. 50K richer. That's always good. Waking up the next morning, 50K richer. I don't think anyone's complaining about that one.
He boosted the projection. That's all we're gonna say. He boosted the projection, which gets you more of them. So congrats to him. Also, we'll go through the injuries. Is our guy Carl questionable with the broken heart? Did something happen, JSU? Do you know the NBA drama for the day?
I don't know why he has a broken heart. I know he's questionable. What's the broken heart about? Did I miss something?
Did his lady ditch him? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he's questionable. Girl trouble? Randall says girl trouble.
Oh, bro,
all right, man, going. Yeah, this is your area, bro. I'm married, so it's your area. Go for it. I mean, is it true? Can you really be questionable off a broken heart?
Well, who did it? Was it him or her, right? Because if it's him, I'm sure he's fine. Right?
Obviously, if he's questionable, then he's got to be the one with the broken heart.
That's my assumption, is he got broken up with. So I don't know who did the breaking up, right? I think that's the key as well.
And what's her name? I didn't even know I didn't even know he was like involved. She's got to be good looking. That's
I've seen her before.
Heart.
It's Jordan Woods is her name.
Jordan Woods.
Yeah.
Jordan Woods.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess they broke up, so we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Yeah, Jordan Woods post heartfelt. That was Anthony Edwards. I don't know. There's a lot of drama. I can't figure it out. Not that important, if we're being honest. Yeah, Sean should have gave the Valentine's cake. That's true. The Valentine's cake can get the job done. But we'll see if Carl plays tonight. Of course, we have a lot of other injuries. The people don't want to get him ahead of time. They're not in the mood for that. That's okay. We'll dive into the games, though, unless you got anything else to talk about with Carl and Jordan Woods, JSU.
No, I just looked up a picture of Jordan Woods. Sorry about that, Carl. On to the next one, buddy. Pretty fine.
On to the next, and let's get to the first game up, the Houston Rockets and the Indiana Pacers. And man, Houston was the talk of the town yesterday. I talked about it. Let's backload. And what happens? We get Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepherd. Absolute wagons yesterday. Must-haves on your team. Another great reason to be in the Run Pure Discord because, hey, I remember being in the chat, and I remember ranking them. Whitmore 1. You wanted Reed Shepherd 2. The only was Landell 3. I know it wasn't great, but
I actually remember, too. I saw you say that. I actually remember Kay Fallick said something kind of like, talking about how, like, if the Rockets are in it, then these guys are going to play. But some of the guys that, are kind of safe either way. And I took it like a step forward. I was just like, the only guys that I really want to play are the cheap starting Rockets. So, yeah, like the rankings were easy. It was Whitmore 1, Reed 2, Jock 3. But, like, those were the only 3 guys that I said I wanted at all from Houston because I knew that, best case scenario, they could get waxed, right? But even if they didn't, there's a path where they play tonight, right, Mangone? So, like, they might be easy on certain guys' minutes no matter what, being as this is kind of a throwaway game because make no mistake, when you just rule out half of your rotation, you're throwing that game away. You don't expect to win this game. You're throwing this game out. So, especially when you play the next day, it kind of made sense to me from a minute standpoint. Maybe they go easy on Jalen Green. So, like, I only wanted those cheaper guys. The guys that I knew today aren't really going to be a factor, right, Mangone? Like Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepherd, even though they played amazing, even though they're really good basketball players, they're probably not going to have a role in this game or a decent role in this game anyways, even though you can make the case that maybe Reed Shepherd should play a little bit more, Mangone, maybe Cam Whitmore. But again, we've seen Cam Whitmore have big spot games and then go back to playing, 15 minutes or something. So yeah, it's just the way it is with the Rockets. And so, yeah, I remember saying to people in the Discord, like, I only want the cheap 3 starting guys. Like, I thought it was pretty cut and dry that way. So, yeah, hopefully we help some people because we were definitely on the rankings, right? I mean, they were jamming Cam Whitmore once his projection updated. Like, he was getting jammed everywhere. But it was the Reed. If you played him and Reed, that was where you got a big edge.
Yeah. Another thing to kind of call out with it all is Jalen Green. I know he has like a start streak where he hasn't like missed a game like Mikal Bridges in years. And I think that's one reason they held back a little bit on him as well. And that's something to watch for in the future to bet his unders. So small little note, but I don't think it's nothing. Also, Donnie's right. Hit the like if you could as we dive into these games and talk about it. And as we kind of talk about this game, Houston is fairly healthy, right? All those guys are back. Fred VanVleet is the only guy that's going to be out here. Of course, we also have Landell. I know he's questionable. Like some of these other Pacers, Benny Mack is doubtful. So that's another thing to kind of call out here. But overall, JSU, I don't think we're going to be particularly loading up on this game. If you look at some of the prices on these guys and some of the ownership, like as I pull it up right now, I don't think this game will be getting a ton of ownership. It's a little bit more of a crowded spot. Andrew Nemhard, he will get ownership, the Pacer side a little bit, but I mean, the Rockets really won't get as much. Maybe Atari Eason at 5.4K. But I don't know. This feels like a tough spot to kind of figure out what to do. And with a lot of news on this slate and like later plays that could become better, I think I want to be a little bit lower on this game, but talk about this one, JSU.
Yeah, first of all, I agree with Peel Alley. We gotta hold these next day updates until 12:01 or something like that. Please. Like, there's no reason. I don't need to know right now that Jaden Springer is questionable with a back. Like, I don't need to know that for Wednesday. Like, there's no reason. So I don't know why they can't hold these updates until literally 12:01 or something like that. And then they can just push them all through or whenever, next morning, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever. But it's very annoying, especially when, a lot of times you go from like a smaller slate to like a big slate. So you have like a massive injury report, right, Mangone, for Wednesdays. So it is very annoying. But back to this game here with Houston, this does look like a game where, some of these guys who are coming off of rest, Mangone, I could see being on this game. Sengun coming off of a day of rest. Amen Thompson. This does feel like a decent spot to play to spend up for one of those two guys. So, I don't mind either of those plays. On is there anyone else on Houston that I really not like? Jalen Green has been good. He's the one guy that did play yesterday. I probably won't play him in this spot. I think if I spend up, it's going to be for Amen and Sengun off the day of rest. So
Tari
Eason
is the guy with the highest ownership on the Rocket side. If you care, JSU, he's around like 15%, but not like super crazy.
That's because his price tag, right, Mangone? I think like the price tag kind of puts him a little bit in play, I guess, on this slate. And as we go through it too, we'll be able to like talk more about it. But that price tag right now, I think what's going to happen though, Mangone, is we are going to get a lot of value. I think value is going to open up on this slate. I would assume value opens up on this slate. So I think it's going to push out some of these mid-tier options at some point, right? Where we're going to get more of the studs and the cheap spend down builds more. But yeah, I guess he'd be third if you want to throw him in there. The guy though that's been playing really well recently is Tyrese Halliburton. He started off the season really slow and he's been coming on big time. 57, 52, 67, 47, 49 his last 5 games. He's still 8,600. I think he's a decent play. I'm not going to spend up for Pascal probably in this spot. Miles Turner, if you're going like the mid-tier route, I think you could play some Miles Turner. I don't think he's like a terrible play. I'd keep him in the pool. But the other like guys after that, like Andrew Nemhard, he's been playing a ton of minutes. If Benny Math is out, I think you could go to him. If Benny Math is in, which he's doubtful right now, so I'm assuming he's out. Then like maybe Nemhard's the guy. Aaron Nesmith's 4,500 Mangone. Do you go to him after, going 6 for 11 from 3? I normally don't like to jump on these type of plays after an outlier shooting performance like that. I mean, when a guy who is normally taking between 4 and 6 threes takes 11 threes and he makes 6 of them, like that's normally a time where I'm like, okay, I'll take you on the next time. I don't want to take you off that big performance. So I'm probably off him too. So my favorite play is definitely Tyrese Halliburton, especially with it being at home too, where he's much better shooting at home. I think he's my favorite play in this game. And then after that, it would be probably Amen Sengun in that order.
Yeah, and I just think being lower on this game makes a lot of sense, especially with the news we're going to have. I know we do have the Benedict Mathurin, right? He is doubtful, but I don't know. Do I want to like blow it up for like an Andrew Nemhard? He's fine, but not someone I absolutely love it. 4.8K. Paul's asking, when do lineups post most of the time? So lineups are 30 minutes before lock. We post them in our Discord. If you guys ever want to get in there and check that out, we post them in there. Of course, we also get an injury update an hour and a half before when the coach does a press conference ahead of time with the team. So an hour and a half before each game or maybe like hour, 20 minutes. It all depends when the coach gets up there and speaks. We get an update. Now, sometimes the update is he's a game time decision. Sometimes he gives us a little info. Sometimes it doesn't give us any info. So that's kind of how it goes around here in the NBA streets. I don't got too much else to say. Again, I want to be lower on this first game, and I'll probably want to be lower on this game too. We got the Orlando Magic and the Toronto Raptors. Orlando, main two guys to talk about is Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. They've been incredible this year. They're obviously banged up, right? No Jalen Suggs matters. They've been in and out of the lineup, even both of those guys. But both these guys against the Toronto Raptors have to be in play at their price tag. And I talked about it, right? Forward sucks. And if you need the raw point spend up, maybe they make sense if we have enough value. RJ Barrett at 7.1K. I don't think he's the craziest play. You go to a Scotty Barnes at 8K. But the problem is I don't really want the Raptors because most of the time when a team plays against the Orlando Magic, I don't want to play them, right? Especially a team like the Toronto Raptors, who they have the lowest total on the entire slate. And there's a reason why, because the pace and tempo will be low. Defense will be good. Orlando, they make some sense, but I want to be a little cautious with them. I will say at 5K, Cole Anthony, if he does play, he does have that questionable tag, but if he plays, he has upside at the price, right? He can get you 40 DK points. Like, it's possible. At low ownership, I don't think he's the craziest play. But, again, another game I think I'm just going to be pretty low on. Not saying a full faded. I think it's mainly looking at the two stud Magic options and then really low exposure to this game and kind of wait for the news in some of these other ones and attack the better games that are later on in the night. What about you, JSU?
Yeah, it also kind of feels like with Toronto especially – there's certain spots where I feel like they pull back on their guys' minutes a little bit, like their top guys too, which is kind of annoying. Some of that, like some games, I feel like their rotations are better than others. And I'm talking like the main three guys, like the Scotty, RJ, quickly. And then some games, I feel like they pull back on them a little bit. Like I remember that game a couple games ago where Scotty was out against Indiana. And I just felt like Quickly's rotation and RJ's rotation it was dumb. It was just like it didn't make any sense, and it was just weird to me. So yeah, they're a team that I kind of worry about. It is annoying because they do have a couple like Grady Dick and Akbaji who are out, so it might open up some minutes for like a Jacoby Walter, who is cheap. He is 3,700. I just think we're going to get better value plays. So it does lock at 7 o'clock. I'm with you. I'm probably going to end up being lower on this game. If Cole Anthony's out, it might make like an Anthony Black a little bit better of a play, Mangone, if Cole Anthony is out. So that's something to just keep in mind. I kind of hope he's just ruled in, and then you don't have to worry about it because I do want to be lower in this spot in general.
Yeah, and Anthony Black would be 4.2K. Like, you couldn't ignore the value. It sounds gross, but you couldn't ignore it, I think, at 4.2K. You'd also always make a case for when.
Well, you could ignore it if all these guys from Philly get ruled out.
That's fair. Yes, that is fair. And we should get a lot of for instance, like the Philly stuff at 8 o'clock. We should get an update at 6:30. That'll give us a little bit of info and could shift how we play it. Also, Paul and Boots, I'm more playing MME these days, and then JSU, you're more like single entry 3-max, right? I guess let them know kind of what you're playing.
Yeah, exactly. So Mangone's been playing more the MME streets. I play more between like 1 and 3 lineups most of the time. Yesterday I did play MME, unfortunately, just because I do love that $5 when DK throws it out there. I do enjoy, taking a stab, throwing a bunch of lineups in there, but sometimes it doesn't work out well. But yeah, mainly most days I'm playing 1 to 3 lineups. Mangone's MMEing what, Mangone, like 50, 100 lineups?
Yeah, 50, 100. I mean, if I like the slate, I'll do maybe 150, depending on the prize pool and the structure. So it all just depends. But I've been playing, I've been playing more on the other site, but on DKF, I started playing the 20 max a little more just because I don't want to be between two sites and spending too much time on the one when I have more money on the other. And I've had success with it, so I'm going to keep doing it and just staying in that.
I personally always think that splitting sites and splitting your attention is probably a bad idea. If you're a serious player and now it's different. If you're taking stabs and you got money on both sites and you're taking stabs, you're throwing, like 3 lineups in the $5, 3 lineups in the, what did FD have, the $3 yesterday or whatever. Okay, that's fine. You know what I mean? That's fine. But I'm talking like serious. If you're playing like, if you're 150 on both sites, like you better be a pro. You better not have anything else you're worrying about at night, right, man? Going like, you better not have to worry about your kids at night. You better be able to stay at your computer all throughout the night and stuff like that. I honestly think that regardless of site, if you're having more success on one, than the other, stick to that one, play heavier on that one. And as opposed to like going between both sites, I've noticed that I've had good success on both sites in different years. And I've noticed like I'm better when I just stick more towards one site.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I will say, so I got roped in, and it was a good thing. So DK hit me with one of those. You get, if you play at least $100 or only $100 max, but you get like 50% rake back. So, basically if you lose the $40, you'll get an extra 20 right back. So I was like, okay, if you're giving me rake back, I'll play. So I just did like $80 in that $4 and did the 20 max, and I won 3K one night. So it's like, okay, you gotta kind of have to keep doing it right at this point. So I'll stick with it a little longer.
But you won though. You won.
Yes, I won.
So they roped you in and you won. So you're like, okay, now I got to keep playing it. You know what I mean?
They roped me in a little bit, but so we'll see how long I can stick with it doing both. But I definitely agree. I don't like extending myself too thin. That's definitely something I did a better job of this year. And so we'll see. I'm playing both right now, though. We'll see how it goes. Let's get to the next game. Atlanta and the Milwaukee Bucks. Some might say the slate starts here. I think I kind of say that with Onyeka Okongwu at 6.2K. In a matchup, they're going to need his size. We do have some injury news in this game that matters, the Kyle Kuzma stuff, right? Kyle Kuzma is questionable. That is the biggest piece of news in this game. If he misses this game, that's going to be huge for some of these Milwaukee Bucks. For one, we've seen Brook Lopez play really well without Bobby Portis. I think that's been really good for him at 5.8K at low ownership. I like him in tournaments. I think he's a good play. Damian Lillard, Giannis, those are two spends you can get to. And then you got the Gary Trents, the Taurean Princes. You can mix and match those guys. I typically want to stay away from them. I don't think they're as good of values as other ones we will get on this slate. And then the Atlanta side, for one, Onyeka Okongwu at 6'2" is just too cheap. I'm going to keep playing him. Karis LeVert's coming in at ownership. Georges Niang, he's popped off a little bit. I don't think Niang or Rishishir is the worst values. I don't love Karis LeVert personally. Maybe you'll have a better take on that than me. I don't feel like I've had a good pulse on him since he's moved over to the Hawks. I do like Dyson Daniels at 7K. One thing I know DC and we talked about when we were hanging out a couple weekends ago, Dyson Daniels doesn't get pulled off the court. You know why he doesn't get pulled off the court, JSU? Because his defense is phenomenal, right? They're always going to play him. It doesn't matter if he's missing shots. Like, that safety and the upside of the stocks is too good to be true. And in a matchup going up against the Milwaukee Bucks where I like to target Damian Lillard defense, I love Dyson Daniels at 7K. So Daniels and Okongwu are probably my two favorites. I'm down with mixing in the values. And I'll just say this. I'm not the biggest Trae Young guy. I do like to target Damian Lillard defense. So, of course, I think Trae Young is not a terrible play. But I just like to use my salary in other ways. Maybe you have a better Trae Young take than I do. He's coming in at 4% owned, so you can't completely ignore it. But 10K does feel pricey, JSU. But talking about the Bucks and the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, like for me personally, I'd much rather spend $1,400 cheaper and get Tyrese Halliburton, who I think has almost similar upside in a way, and there's a $1,400 savings. So yeah, I get the matchup and everything like that does fit. Don't forget, Trae played yesterday, close game, played 37 minutes against Memphis. So, keep that in mind. I mean, Giannis has to be the clear easiest spend on the slate. I do think this kind of sets up for a big Giannis game, in my opinion. Kyle Kuzma was doubtful, got upgraded to questionable. I assume that means that he's looking good to play. I think he had an illness. I can't remember exactly, but that kind of sounds to me like he might be feeling a little bit better, and he might play in this game. So I'm kind of going under that assumption, Mangone. So for me on the Milwaukee side, I like Giannis. I'm not playing probably Dame or Kuzma. I don't want to mess with Dyson Daniels here. Brook Lopez, though, I do think his role with Bobby Portis, out has looked really good. And I think he's in play. Now, again, another guy that it could change my thoughts on him depending on how much value we get. Might kind of push plays like him out. But right now, I think he's okay at his price tag. But these other guys like, Gary Trent, I think he's more of an MME type play. I prefer him over Prince, I think. But he's someone who I'd keep in if you're playing like, MME and stuff like that. I'd keep him in the pool. Again, because I think the values we're going to get are going to be better, but he still does have upside at his price tag. And then the Atlanta side, I'm not going to spend the $10K for Trey. I like the Dyson Daniels argument, especially on the other site with the stock upside that he has. Ricochet, he had his game. It was yesterday. If you were going to play him, 11 for 13 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3. Don't expect that type of consistency from the field and from the 3-point line 2 games in a row. Plus Niang back, I think might affect his minutes a tad, maybe just a tad. Even if it goes from like 32 to like 28 or something like that, it's still something. So I'm kind of cautious on them. I do like what I've seen from Karis LeVert, Mangone. I think his price tag, he does warrant consideration at that price tag. It still feels kind of light to me. And against Milwaukee with all their size and stuff, I do think we might need someone like him and Niang. I think they're the 2 guys that I have the most interest in right now on this team. That it doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily get to them, but I think if you made me pick 2 guys, it's probably those 2 right now from the Atlanta side.
Yeah, it sounds like we agreed on a bunch there. And another thing to call out too, because I think it's a good conversation point when looking at slates, is like if you look at the studs to spend on this slate, right? It's Giannis at 11K, and then the second highest is Trae Young at 10K, right? This isn't a slate where we're like, oh, we got LeBron, we got Luka, we got Jokic, and we have all these different players. So Giannis will gain ownership, but there's good reason why. And if we have the value,
and we might lose more studs on this slate. Like
yes.
Cat's questionable, Steph's questionable, Tyrese Maxey's already ruled out, Evan Mobley's ruled out, Josh Giddey's questionable, which I know there's levels, but still, like there's a bunch of spend ups that we might still lose. So
yeah, it's worth calling out for sure. So JC, I will ask you this: you like a good long shot bet, right? You love a good long shot bet.
Yeah.
On the DraftKings Sportsbook. So we were talking about this on the show yesterday. Have you looked at Rookie of the Year odds on DraftKings Sportsbook?
Yeah, I have. I know Khalil Ware was a favorite like a couple weeks ago, maybe, and I think that's flipped now, and now it's Castle's a favorite.
So Castle is minus 190. Khalil Ware is actually plus 17-1. So, which I think that's the games played thing. I think that's kind of the reason why. Zachariah Riss this year, I know AP was touting him on the show at 20-1 yesterday as an interesting option. I'm just saying, look at the board, man. Like, there's some, like Jalen Wells is plus 340, right? Like, I think the Zachariah Riss this year one could be a really interesting one. Like, I think AP was on.
Yeah, Jalen Wells being plus 340 is crazy, but it's got to be the games played, right? Even Ricochet's missed games. I mean, how many games has he missed? So
yeah, one thing you would have to do if you are going to calculate this is figure out like let's say they miss a couple games, right? Like if they miss a couple, is that going to destroy them? So Ricochet, whatever.
I'll just say this about the Spurs. I've been saying this about the Spurs for years. When they get these like versatile like guards, they just always develop them. So guys like Stephen Castle, Devin Vassell, you can take this back even further, DeJounte Murray, before that Kawhi Leonard, right? They always seem to like get the most out of these type of players. And Stephen Castle looks really, really good. I'm still annoyed that they traded for De'Aaron Fox because not obviously with Victor going out, it's even more annoying because I would have liked to seen them get a better draft pick, obviously. But still, like he's looked really good. I think like kind of the sky's the limit for him because he's got everything on defense. So like if his offensive game keeps improving the way it looks like it is just from the beginning of the season when I watched him, where he kind of looked a little lost offensively, to now it looks like a completely different player from game one to what are we at right now, man? Going like 50-something games in? Where are we at? 50-something, somewhere around there, right?
Yeah.
50-something games in. I think he looks like a completely different player on the offensive end. I think he's starting to really figure it out. Probably helps that he has someone like Chris Paul to just kind of bounce things off of as a veteran guard. But Ginobili. People saying Ginobili in the chat.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Different type of guy. Tony Parker, different types of guys than what I was kind of talking about. But exactly. They just seem to always develop these guys. These 3-and-D guys. They for whatever reason, and they make them into like full blown like legit basketball players, like where they don't have many holes, and it's impressive. They do a really good job drafting and scouting the guys in the draft. So, yeah. God, Bruce Bowen. I love Bruce Bowen. He was so dirty. He was such a dirty basketball player, but I love Bruce Bowen.
Did.
Derek White, P. Lally, that's another good pull right there. I mean, Derek White on Boston is a different player than he was on the Spurs, but that's because he doesn't need to be that, right? He needs to be what he's doing on Boston, which what he's doing on Boston is amazing, but he's like the third or fourth option on Boston, right, man? Going, and he's like what he is, you know what he is? He's like the zone double team killer, right? Because when you zone Boston or you double Tatum, you just get killed because he's going to be open for a three.
And he's going to make it.
He's going to make the right play if he gets covered on a swing for someone to hit a three. Because Derek White makes the right play 99% of the time. And that's the Spurs. That's the Spurs in him. That's the Spurs organization. You go back to all those teams. Popovich, they always made the right play. And if they didn't, Popovich would pull him, and he'd be so pissed. I remember DeJounte Murray had the shortest leash of anyone in the beginning, man, going. Do you remember DeJounte Murray's leash? It was as short as could be. He'd play like 15 minutes one game, 35 minutes the next game, and it'd be so tilting. But
he was so frustrating for sure when he was.
But it wasn't him. It was Pop. Pop wouldn't budge. If he made a mistake, I knew it too. Like if I saw him make a bad turnover, I was like, I'm dead. He's coming out. He's not going back in. So, Avery Johnson, another good pull. Raj Bell. Yeah, they got so many guys.
They've had some good ones for sure with the
I get the rookie of the year thing from that standpoint. Like if you want to take a chance on a Ricochet, I don't know how many games. I would definitely go look like how many games he has to play, right, Mangone? Like
I think it's 65. I think you have to figure out the math.
But how many games does he have to play to hit the quota?
Agree. Yeah, you have to do the math of how many games are left and how many does he have to play. Yeah, you'd have to figure that out.
Because how can he beat Castle right now? The Spurs are technically in it, right?
Well, The Spurs, I mean, there's definitely a chance they don't make the play-in. The actual Hawks, they have a better chance of making the play-in than the. And then obviously,
but the Spurs are still technically like they have a chance, right? Yeah, they're kind of out, but they still technically have a chance in the play-in. It's a long shot. So
yeah, the Hawks one is way more realistic, right? They're a 9 seed and they're way up on these other terrible teams.
I think the question you have to ask yourself is, do you think that the Spurs just start like resting their guys, like even Castle?
Yeah.
Like me personally, I would not rest Castle because I think he's getting more. These live game reps are so huge for someone like him. I wouldn't rest him. But if you think there's a chance that they just say, fuck it, we want a better draft pick, we're going to rest all our good guys, even the young good guys, and get them ready for next year, then yeah, I think it's a good pick. If Stephon Castle plays the rest of the year, though, even with the run he's getting, it's only going to increase, right, Mangone? Because the more they rest Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox, that just means more run for Castle, which means better outcomes probably.
Yeah, I assume he gets run, but it's an interesting thing to look at, right? There's always inefficiencies in the market to take advantage of, so it's always good to look at them.
How'd you get run down on a San Antonio Spurs path? I didn't even get on that. Oh, because of Castle. Yeah,
Castle. You're talking about how good the guards have been, and then Tony Parker's getting brought up and everything. So yeah, it was good stuff. But all right, actually, Jay, let's get to the next game. I do have an NBA trivia question, but maybe we'll do that later on. Good NBA trivia I saw on Twitter the other day. Let's get to the Golden State Warriors and the New York Knicks. We got to talk about that one because Karl-Anthony Towns and Stephen Curry, they are both questionable. This is massive news. Obviously, it sounds like he's questionable with a broken heart. And his girlfriend broke up. I don't know who did what, but who broke up with who, but he seems sad. Where's our guess? We're all guessing. And then Steph Curry, we'll have to see playing on a back-to-back, but it's in the Garden. I believe I saw someone post in the Discord. He's 11-1 in MSG, so we know Steph Curry wants to play in MSG. Every player likes to, but we'll see if he suits up for it. Both studs on this slate. We talked about the lack of studs, so that's important. And if these guys are out, that's going to help a Jimmy Butler, right? That'll help a Jalen Brunson and give a huge boost to a lot of these Knicks. Hard to know what to do without this information, though, JSU. And this game starts at 7:30 Eastern. Hopefully, we have the information in time. But what's your thoughts on Knicks and Warriors?
Yeah, Warriors are man. They've been crushing recently. They've looked really good. They're just out of the play-in right now, so they're like a game up or a half game up, whatever it is, on the Clippers. And you would think for a team like Golden State, they do not want to be in the play-in, right, Mangone? So you would think that they're wanting to play and win and get away from that play-in situation, even being in that play-in situation.
If they could, I don't know if they're going to be able to. They're on the 6 already. How'd they move up so quick? They actually moved up so fast.
They've been winning. Maybe they've lost like one game with Jimmy. What's their record with Jimmy Butler?
I think they've only lost one with Jimmy, which I guess just shows how bad the other teams have been playing. But I'll admit, the last time I looked at the standings, they were like 10 or 11. So I mean, they've been winning. Don't get me wrong.
What it shows is that even greats, they still need another guy. Like Steph always had Clay and Dre, and at some points KD. All these guys still need someone else. It can't just be them. And even though Steph's old, he's still friggin' amazing. He's still
no one has won a title without no one, right? I know everyone says Dirk did it all himself. Dirk had Jason Kidd, Sean Marion, Tyson Chandler. He had a squad.
You know what? You go through all those guys and you didn't even bring up the GOAT, JJ Barea. That's disrespectful to so many things.
JJ was great.
Unbelievable.
JJ was great in the finals, but we know if we're doing the pecking order of
importance, you don't remember him guarding LeBron? You don't remember him owning LeBron? Get out of here, man. JJ Barea was on one in that playoffs.
I don't know if Michael Finley was on that team, but Jason Terry was on that team. I don't remember if Finley was on that team, but they had a lot of them. So it was a loaded team. People disrespect.
I'll give you this: it was a loaded team of role players, though, Mangone, or guys that were older at that time, right? It was a loaded team of role players.
Sure. Loaded though, loaded.
Like Jason Kidd was older. Like, but I agree with you. They had a bunch of really good guys, and it kind of like it just like gelled well with Derek. So
they all played their role perfectly. Like it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Yeah. Honestly, you can make the case it's like one of the few teams that didn't have like a couple, like at least two really good players.
Correct. It's like the one scenario,
really,
which is the anomaly, which we're talking.
Because like the Spurs that always won, they had nasty teams. They had role players plus 3 stars. You know what I'm saying? Like,
did they have Antoine Jameson also?
I mean, they might have. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I remember Sean Marion, but God, they steamrolled them, Jake. I just go back. Sometimes I'll go watch highlights just to remind myself. It's such a great time in my life watching basketball, watching that Dallas team win. I was so happy.
Yeah, they had Karan Butler. They were hurt though. Karan was hurt. I remember. Karan got hurt though, like in the regular season. It was depressing.
That was a really, really good team. But to your point though, it's your point. Your point is that no one just does it by themselves. The only team might have been that LeBron team with Matthew Dellavedova because all the injuries. Remember that team? They lost to the Warriors, but that might have been like the one team, honestly, if he won with that.
Yeah, Anderson Varejao.
Man, he had nobody at the end. Yeah, he had nobody. But,
I don't know if Josh Howard was there, but Josh Howard's another good call, another good pull out of nowhere. Yeah, Josh Howard. By the way, how much would Big T hate this conversation right now? I think he would hate it.
Oh God, he's probably sitting there so mad, but he can't talk. He'd want to yell at me because I said something about the great LeBron, how he got steamrolled by JJ Barea. Oh, he lost. Like, who cares? Okay, he lost. Get over it.
The best is the picture of LeBron getting. I believe it's JJ's posting him up in the post, and it's JJ just owning his ass. It was hilarious.
I could just see it too. Big T must have been so mad when they lost. He must have been so mad. He probably had so much money on the Cavs, or I'm sorry, the Heat. But yeah, great times, great times. But back to this game here, it all is going to depend. If these guys are in, and this is how I view this game. If these guys are in, I like Steph. I think Draymond's in play on this slate for sure. At the center position, I think you can go back to him. Both good plays. Those are the two guys that I mainly want. Now, I do think Golden State has some others that you can kind of keep in the pool, like the Buddy Hield types at 4,200. I think he can just stay in the pool because he's probably not playing 31 minutes, but at the same time, he can get hot. And, MSG, like if he gets hot, maybe he gets extra run. Moses Moody's more expensive. I think Moses Moody's more in play if you see a starter miss. So like if Steph is out, I think he's more in play. If Steph is out, I think Podziemski becomes much more in play than right now. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. In or out, it just all depends. But I do like Steph if he plays, just because of the MSG factor and stuff like that. But we'll see if he plays. I'm kind of worried that he plays here, Mangone. Tweaked his ankle, back end of a back-to-back. Steve Kerr feels like he's very careful in these type of situations with his stars, his vets. So we'll see. But the Towns thing, man, I think he plays. I think he plays, but I've been wrong on him before, so we'll see. Again, he's one of those situations though where if he plays, I probably won't play him. If he's out, then I'm gonna like a lot of these Knicks. I'm gonna like OG. I'm gonna like Josh Hart. Those are my two, probably my favorites. And then I think Jalen Brunson's for sure in play. He'd be third, but and I would assume that they'd start either Precious or Mitch Robb. I don't think Mitch Robb could play big minutes, probably. I think they're still going to be careful with him. But, yeah, I mean, this is just going to come down to who's in, who's out.
Yeah, it's going to come down to who's in and who's out. I agree. I do think an OG Anunoby would get a really nice bump in this matchup. I know DC is somewhere upset by that, but hey, I do think it fits him well.
Listen, BG3, all right? I raised the chair a little bit, okay? Just leave me alone, all right? The feeling of me being taller is nice on this show, okay? It's not a booster, okay? But I did raise the seat. I'm not sitting on anything, though. I did raise the seat, though, a little bit. So get off my ass.
I do love that when you and Big T are on shows, you do look taller than him, and it makes no sense.
Dude, it's the best. I love it every single time. You know why, though? I've sat in his chair. He sits, like, at the lowest level. At the very lowest level of the chair. So when I sit at Mango and I like raise that shit all the way up, I'm like, dude, I can barely see. Like, how in the world? But yeah, he sits at the lowest point. That's why.
Yeah, it is always funny on the shows. All right, we got
prove it.
We got 3 games left. Cleveland and Chicago is up next. And as we keep going through the slate, the injuries pile up, right? There's more and more coming. Lonzo Ball questionable, Josh Giddey questionable, Kevin Huerter questionable, Kobe White looks like he is going to be in. Pretty big news, though, with this game because we already have Vucevic out, right? If you're missing all those guys, it's going to be like load up on Zach Collins, load up on Buzeles, Kobe White's going to run the show. You could see Trey Jones start at point guard if all those guys are missing. Like, you can see some crazy stuff. It's kind of hard to break this down, but the point I'm getting at is I think this news and the next game's news is way too important that I want to have the spots open, right? If I'm an MME player, if I'm a single entry player, I'm going to feel like a moron if I have Andrew Nemhard in my lineups, and then I can get exposure to these late guys. Now, I could see us getting all this news. I could see it flying between 6:30 and 7, where you really got to make some adjustments on your own, and it's going to be really hard to kind of navigate it in the 7 o'clock window. But I think this is too important for me. And I think with the next game coming up's news, that's so important that something's going to fall our way. I don't know what's going to fall our way, JSU, but something is going to fall our way where I want to prioritize it. Keep in mind, Cleveland, you assume Cleveland will blow out the Bulls, right? This Bulls team stinks. We'll have to see. You can easily play Cleveland guys if you want, but for me, most of them seem a little bit pricey, except that Jared Allen. You could make the case a Ty Jerome with Evan Mobley out, DeAndre Hunter gets a little bit of a boost. So there are options you could mix and match, especially in a matchup against the Chicago Bulls. And I'm not trying to predict blowout, JSU, but like one thing to note, if the game does like kind of blow out, a guy like Ty Jerome, I think, is still kind of closing in that final 12-minute mark to like maybe the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter. Of course, that 4-minute mark when both teams give up, they give up. But that's kind of when maybe Donnie Mitchell sits, but Ty Jerome eats, right? Maybe they keep a Max Strus on the court or a DeAndre Hunter. That's something I like to think about when kind of making these decisions. And if the game's competitive and close, those guys are still going to do well. So mainly look at the mid-tier guys on Cleveland, I would say. And then on the Bulls side, it's hard to dissect what to do. But let me tell you, I want to have the roster spots open because I think there's good plays here. What's your thoughts on this game, JSU?
Yeah, the Bulls side, another team where you got a lot of guys that could potentially be in or out. And it's going to change the slate, if all these guys end up getting ruled out. Now, I do think some of them do play. I wouldn't be shocked if one or two of them got ruled out. So it is one of those situations that you got to stay on to. But I agree with you, from the Cleveland side, Jared Allen, it does seem like to me that Cleveland is starting to move towards playing less of the double big lineups, Mangone. And I think two things. I think one, the DeAndre Hunter trade solidified it when they traded for him. Okay, the double big isn't working. When we play teams like Boston, the top tier teams, these lineups are getting killed. We can't keep doing this. Yeah, we can do this when we play the bad teams. It's fine. When you play Chicago, you can play double big lineups and you'd be fine. But I think they're realizing to have real success in the playoffs, they need to go away from it, and they're starting to do that. So like Jared Allen is starting to be a player that, for me at least, I want to be on when one of the bigs, when Evan Mobley's out, and this is that chance right here where you can just jam Jared Allen. I think he plays. If they blow him out, I think it doesn't matter because I think he has a double easily. Probably gets like 15 rebounds. And if they don't blow him out, this is a perfect style of pace for Jared Allen to still have like a monster game because Chicago plays fast, and that kind of fits with Jared Allen. He's going to get blocks and rebound a ton and be able to get putbacks and stuff like that, playing against someone like Zach Collins and Jalen Smith. So I think he can have success inside. So I'm going to be heavy on Jared Allen for sure. I think these other guys though are like Darius Garland, Donnie Mitchell. I kind of want to like one of them, man, going because I feel like one of them has a decent game, and it's going to kind of depend for me at least on what Chicago does. But Donovan Mitchell's crushed in this spot before. Darius Garland's had good games against them, so I feel like if the Chicago guys are in, I'm probably going to play one of these two guys on my teams. And I think it's a good idea if you MME. I don't love probably playing them both together. I mean, you could, but I think it's a good idea to maybe be overweight because this is one of those games where the pace could just be really, really good.
Yeah. Also worth keeping in mind, this game starts at 8 o'clock Eastern, so it is on an island compared to the other games. It's not an island with the Sixers game, which obviously we'll get the news on, but I'm saying it's past those other game times, which you might not have all the news on that. And this is a game that is going to get a lot of ownership. JSU, I am counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players that are 10% or more ownership-wise, and 3 players that are coming in at 20% or more. So this game's chalky for a reason, and honestly, the ownership could move around a lot after lock, depending on how the news shakes out. It's really hard to break it down. That's why you got to be a member over at Run Pure Sports. Use that code RPS15 to get 15 off.
And Jake asked, where does Mobley's minutes go? The one thing with Cleveland is they still have got bodies. They've got Dean Wade, who can play more. He played 20 minutes last time out. They've got Isaac Okoro, Sam Merrill, and I know they don't all those guys though. Even Dean Wade can play the 4. Isaac Okoro actually, 3, 4, whatever you want to call it. DeAndre Hunter. These guys are all going to get mixed around because they're playing a team in the Bulls that, like, honestly, it's not like they're the biggest team of all time. You know what I mean? They get Zach Collins and Matthias, he's a big, but he's not really a big. He plays on the outside. He's not like dominating you inside. So it's not a team that I feel like you have to match like their size and physicality on. So you can play DeAndre Hunter at the 4. You can play these smaller type lineups where you have Ty Jerome in there with Darius Garland at times and be okay with Okoro and Hunter or Dean Wade and Max Struss at the 3 and the 4. So, I think it's going to get spread out, but that's why if you do want to play some of these guys like DeAndre Hunter in a close game, I think he closes, so. Yes. And if you play it like it's close, I think DeAndre Hunter is a good play. I think Ty Jerome, is going to play some just because, like I said, I don't think they're going to have to match size. So, I think he's going to get some decent run. But he is 5,800. Side note, too, on Ty Jerome, what's that dude got to do to have any odds at most improved player in the NBA? Maybe he won't win it, but my God, he should have odds. He should be in the top 6. He should be a 6-man. He should be higher than what he is in 6-man. Peyton Pritchard's right now the favorite on DK. I think Ty Jerome's like 35-1 or something like that, which I think is just kind of wild to me. DeAndre Hunter's ahead of him. How is DeAndre Hunter ahead of him?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hunter was good with the Hawks, then he's been good with Cleveland. I kind of get why. But,
he had like a slow stretch with the Hawks though too. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think it's way more impressive what Ty Jerome's been doing, but he came out of like literally nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's way more impressive to me personally.
yeah.
But whatever.
I'll tell you this, Jace. You have Dean Wade starts. I do think you could see like more of a spot start guy in the Mobley role. And I won't bite on just like loading up on that. I don't know who it could be, but I still like the Ty Jeromes, the Hunters, right? All those options. And of course, Jared Allen should be a really good play. He is the highest owned guy in this game at 35% owned. All right, let's keep moving this thing along though. Again, Cavs are going to be good. I do think they're going to take those minutes like Jake was asking, and they'll be mixed around a little bit depending on how the game goes, which doesn't make it easy to predict. But again, I'm not biting on the spot start guy, the Okoro, the Wade. I don't think it's worth it. And I think we're going to have better value on this slate than those guys. Next game up, 8 o'clock game. We got the Philadelphia 76ers, the Minnesota Timberwolves. So let's talk about some of the news that we already have with that game. Rudy's out. Tyrese Maxey's out. Kelly Oubre's in, and so is Yabusele. But Randall's questionable, Justin Edwards, Paul George, and Quentin Grimes. That's a massive list of guys in the Sixers. And if all those guys end up being in, well, it's going to shake up how we play these guys, right? Like, sure, I would like Paul George a little bit. I would maybe like Grimes a little, or an Oubre. But if all those guys are out, I'm going to love Oubre. Yabusele's going to get a bumming. Andre Drummond at 5K is going to be an absolute smash type of play, especially with no Rudy Gobert in there. We did just get news that Towns is out from the chat. And it's a personal issue, JSU, so the heart is broken. Poor Carl is upset. We can circle back to the Knicks at the end, but JSU, talk about the Philadelphia 76ers and Minnesota Timberwolves. Again, we don't have this news. We did just get some pretty big news that'll help us jam in some of those plays, but I don't want to ignore these plays because if all these guys get ruled out like the Rockets yesterday, I know we had great news earlier, but these guys will be low owned and they'll be great plays that people will not be able to get to. So I'm going to save some roster spots for this game. How about you?
Yeah, pour one out for our guy, Cat, but we'll get back to him in a second. This game here, you got Paul George and Grimes, which it kind of sounded like Paul George really wasn't that close to playing yesterday when all like the actual comments came out, Mangone, where it just seemed like he wasn't feeling right at all. So even though it felt like it was like a game time decision type thing, it didn't seem like they were very optimistic on him playing anyways from the comments. But we'll see. Maybe a full one more night of rest and stuff. Maybe he feels a little better. I could just see them, saying screw it though and just rest all these guys. Kelly rested yesterday, so Kelly plays. But like, I mean, if these guys are all out, Jeff Doughton's going to play a ton. Lonnie Walker, who played 28 minutes last night, he's going to play. Ricky Council's going to get run. He's probably going to get a lot of run if Justin Edwards is out, and Jared Butler. So like, I think you can load up on these cheap guys. Like they just seem like really good plays. And then it's easy to fit in the Giannis's, the Brunsons, Josh Hart, whoever you think is like a must play from those games once you get all the news and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm kind of leaning under the assumption that these guys get ruled out, Mango. That's kind of what I'm leaning to. But if they're in, I think it makes it a little easier because if they're in, I don't feel the need that I have to go to some of these guys. But I do think even if like Paul George, Quentin both play, right? If all those guys are in, I still think we can get like a Jeff Doughton, a Jared Butler type starting or something like that. So either way, I feel like we get some type of value popping in there.
Yeah, I do think we're going to get some value. I don't know who it's going to be, right? My guess is, I think it's Andre Drummond season. I'll say that. Like, if you told me, hey, who are the guys you kind of want to prioritize a little bit for? I think I want to prioritize for Andre Drummond.
Man, he just came off of playing 29 minutes, though, Mangone. He had 55 fantasy points. You think he can go back to back?
I think he can. I'm not too worried about that.
Okay.
I will say Yabusele, if you don't like Andre Drummond, Yabusele would likely do pretty well. I do think those guys kind of eat into each other a little bit usage-wise.
Yeah, I think Drummond hurts Yabu.
Yeah, I mean, Oubre seems like Oubre. I know you mentioned Council. I'll say
I liked it better when they weren't playing together. Like, I liked it better when they just decided to start one and bring the other one off the bench. I don't like them playing together. I think it hurts Yabu the most.
I agree. I think it hurts him a ton. So that's why I wanted to kind of mention that I'd just be a little concerned at playing them both together. I mean, Jared Butler, I think between Jared Butler and Lonnie Walker, there's opportunity there. I could see one of them spot start here, especially if a lot of these guys are out. What I'm basically saying is if those guys are in the starting lineup, I'm going to want to get very overweight on them. And I think it's going to be a situation kind of like last night where they're going to absolutely crush. So that's something I'm waiting to look at. Again, it's hard to know what to do without the starting lineups. The two that look the best, right? Without knowing the news, it's probably Oubre and Drummond. And like, even if you get half of the guys in and half out, if you get all out, those are the two that pop up. Then that's when you start getting to the fringe guys, like you were talking about, like the Councils could pop, the Lonnie Walkers, all these other guys. So I think that's mainly it for that. JC, I don't know how much you talked about Minnesota. I didn't talk that much about them.
I think Philly gets pounded, honestly. So I'm probably just going to play the value guys from Philly the more I think about it.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to spend for many of these Philly guys. So unless they if they all get ruled in, that's the only way I could spend for Philly. Like if they all end up playing. But other than that, if one more of these guys gets ruled out, I think it's just value for me. And I'm probably going to fade Drummond on my three teams off the big game. Personally, I'm probably just going to go straight value. Like anyone 4K or lower is in play for me. Anyone not is not.
Yeah, JC, if all those guys get ruled in, and let's say Julius Randle gets ruled out, Timberwolves will be really low owned, like Nas and Ant, and they'll be really great spends at that point because then the game could be more competitive. We know the Sixers don't play a lot of defense. And without Julius Randle, there's usage to go around for Nas to have that role that he was having and to absolutely crush on a slate where you don't have a lot of studs. And I think you would get those guys really low owned and people wouldn't go to them. So something else to call out with those two options. And even a Dante DiVincenzo would get a little bit of a bump with no Julius Randle. But again, it's hard to know without the news coming in. So that's something we'll be in the Discord chat breaking that all down for you guys and making it work. Brooklyn and
who had a better year, Mavs or Philly? This isn't even close.
I think
it's not even a close question. It's Philly.
It's Philly by far.
It's Philly by far. You know why? Because there was no expectations. Because they were never going to actually win anything. The Mavs just came off almost winning a championship. You know what I mean? Like there was massive expectations. So I don't think it's close. It's definitely Philly.
Not only that, JC, if you look at the Mavs future, like versus Philly, like at least you have Maxey and McCain as like a kind of 1-2 punch that like for the future, like, I mean, what do the Mavs have in the future, right? They have Kyrie and Davis for the next 2-3 years, but like, then it's going to get ugly, right? And it's like, I guess you have Max Christie and Derek Lively as your future. It's a bit ugly. So yeah, I'd agree with you on that. All right. Let's get to the last game. Brooklyn and San Antonio, and then we'll get on out of here. Not a game I think I want to load up on, JSU. I think we could be fairly fast with this one. Brooklyn, they're a lot healthier. Claxton's back. D'Angelo Russell, Cam Thomas, Watford. I mean, all the guys, they're back. Only Clowney is really missing here. And honestly, I don't want to touch Brooklyn on this slate. I don't think it's necessary. I think we'll have enough value. Ownership-wise, I'm seeing everyone below 10%. You do have good prices on Claxton and Russell. I will call that out at 5.7 and 5.4, mainly Russell at 5.4. You could argue if he gets the minutes, but it's a big if. I don't want to take a chance on it. On the Spurs side, not a lot of ownership here, but Devin Vassell at 5.6 isn't a terrible option, I would think. Right, you could take stabs on these guys, like the Castles, the Keldon Johnsons. But again, I want to be more underweight on this game. JC, you play 1 to 3 lineups. I assume you're not going to have any exposure to this game, but maybe you'll surprise me.
Yeah, I think Brooklyn's just an easy, X for most of the season, unless we get to the point where they're playing just 8 guys, 8 or 9 guys or something like that, and then which I can go back to them. But right now, I'm not playing these Brooklyn guys, not with the minutes that they've been playing. I will say 5.4 D'Angelo Russell is at least cheap. That is very, very cheap for him, but I can't click it with the minutes. It's brutal, but he's the one guy that would stick out if you made me pick one. On the San Antonio side, I think there's 2 guys you leave in your pool, man, going. Keldon Johnson had some foul trouble last game. I think the Brooklyn matchup sets up really well if they want to go really small with Keldon in there. I think it sets up pretty well. So I think he's a good tournament play. Probably get no ownership because, like you said, none of this game is really getting owned as much. And I think Castle is the other guy you leave in your pool. He's shown upside 40 plus in his last 3 games, playing 30 or more minutes. It is 6,100, so it is a decent price tag, but he's shown that he's good enough to, hit that tag, So I think those are the 2 plays that the only 2 guys I would look at from San Antonio. So, Corey asked, we can go back to this real quick before we get out of here, man. I do feel like with Towns out.
We just got news real quick just to call out that Steve Kerr said Curry is hopeful to play, which it's not the greatest verbiage, but I don't trust Steve Kerr. So
I don't trust him at all.
So I don't want to say, hey, we read that quote and we trust whatever he's saying because he can't be trusted.
Yeah, I don't trust Steve Kerr at all. Him saying that he's hopeful means literally nothing to me. I want to see it. So if that means I got to fade or be lower on the 2 7:00 games, honestly, outside of I think Tyrese Halliburton's my favorite play from the 2 7:00 games. Outside of that, I could probably just fade everyone else and be okay. I'll live with myself, regardless of what happens. So I do think there's, some okay plays. I do think you can spend up for an amen too, but I'll probably do something like that on my team. So I will say, when you see the best player on one team sit, you got to think as a coach. I personally think that Steph Curry is pushing to play because it's in New York. I think he wants to play because he likes playing in. Who doesn't like playing in Madison Square Garden?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think he is trying to push to play. That's my assumption, but we'll see. And again, I don't trust anything Steve.
Listen, if he's out, I'm gonna play goal. I'm gonna play this game heavy because I'm gonna like both sides of this game. I'm gonna push Draymond in my lineup. I'm gonna push Jimmy Butler, probably Pods. Josh Hart. I'm gonna push all those guys in my lineup.
Yeah, it would easily change the slate. Jimmy Butler would be one of the best studs on the slate. And keep in mind, just there's not a lot of studs, right? So we are gonna have to live in that upper mid-tier more, not that.
And I'm gonna get value. I'm gonna get some value on this slate, so I don't even have to worry about it. So I can literally play whoever I want because I'm gonna get value.
Yeah. We're going to get the value. I agree, JSU. And we'll see what the value is. We don't know what it's going to be, but we'll adjust our lineups for that and do what we can. Again, sounds like the one guy you did mention that I didn't think was crazy was the Keldon Johnson stuff, especially if the game did get become a blowout. If it does become a blowout,
he fits this Nets matchup perfectly.
No, I agree. I think that was a really good spot that you brought up there. So I'm not saying I'm going to be, playing 40% or something, but hey.
I think he's a guy you can bump the projection on a little bit and just get a little over the field on. It doesn't take that much to get over the field on Keldon Johnson. So. And
honestly, JC, let's say we don't get the value that we're hoping for, right? The Sixers roll those guys in. That's a fallback option. That's not terrible. So.
Yep.
All right. Let's get the plays of the day. JC, I'm going to go first just because I don't want mine sniped. I like that Milwaukee Atlanta game. I'm giving you a guy that's under 10%. I talked him up earlier. I'm going with Dyson Daniels. I like targeting guards against the Bucks. He is a guard playing the Bucks. I'm a Dyson Daniels guy, so give me Dyson Daniels as my play of the day. I don't know if I stole it, JSU. I didn't think I was going to steal your play, but you were shaking your head. So,
no, you didn't steal my play of the day, so you're good. I'm going to go with someone. I hate doing it, but I'm going to go with my boy Halliburton in the first game. I talked him up. He's the one guy I really have interest in. He's been shooting much better at home. Been playing much better at home just in general. 8,600. I like the spot for him. So I'm going to play some Mr. Halliburton at that price tag at home against the Rockets.
Yeah, I like the Hallie spot a little bit more. We've seen when they've been shorthanded with some of the ball handlers that he's popped off for big games. So I think that's someone I'll get a little more exposure to. JC, we should circle back to the Knicks really quick. Obviously, no Towns does matter a ton. Josh Hart's rebound rate will go up at 7.7K. Feels expensive, but again, at 7.7, I'll take his like 55 bomb, right, that he puts up, or gets his triple-double. I know you and Rubio both bet his triple-double in the Discord chat a bunch. So OG Anunoby at 6'1" is in play. Bridges at 5'9". I mean, all these guys are going to be in play. And I mean, don't look now. Precious Achiuwa is now 5K. He's not 6'2", which he's been for a while. So it might be an interesting spot for Precious Achiuwa. He'll probably get pushed a ton in projections. But JSU, give me your breakdown on what you're doing with the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, Hart, OG, I think are two guys I want. And then it's just going to depend on, like, you know, whatever they do with the starter, right, man, going, like, if Mitchell starts, I still don't think he plays a ton. So I think it's just like a spot start, plays like 8 minutes in the first, 8 minutes in the second.
Real quick, JSU, Mitchell Robinson is going to be limited. He will remain on a limits minute Tuesday. So if he starts, you're right. It's a minutes limit, and you don't have to worry about him being like this guy playing 30. Which,
honestly, I hope he starts because I know he's not going to play a ton. So I kind of hope he starts. Either way, I'm going to probably play some Precious, you know, at 5K. I think that's a good call, especially with the other kid, Ariel or whatever his name is, out that was playing. He was playing some of the backup center. Because I do think they like Precious at the 4 anyways, a little bit more. So I think that's why he was playing. But they were also missing other guys for a little bit of that stretch too. Like OG was out for some of that stretch. I think Josh Hart missed a game or two here and there. But yeah, either way, you know, those are the first two guys. And then probably some Precious too, and Brunson. Those are the 4 guys. So Hart, OG, Brunson, Precious. The 4 Knicks I'm looking at, and you know, go from there. It's going to be a really good game. I kind of wish Steph sat, man, going, I want to just jam this game. I mean, if he does sit, I actually do think it's going to be a great spot for Jimmy, so I wouldn't mind kind of jamming Jimmy in there in the Garden. So me too. I'm okay with it. Like, whatever way it ends up going, I'm fine with it. So yeah, we'll have to see how it shakes out. I am trying to look because our Discord chat's saying Kevin's got his cores up. I don't see Kevin's cores. Oh, his FanDuel core. That's why. I didn't see the DK core. Kevin's got his FanDuel core up for the people. If you want it, go sign up at Run Pure Sports. Use that code RPS15 for 50% off. I will say this, JSU, he's got Bogdan Bogdanovic in the core. I don't like that. That's one guy I'm done with. He's got a Clipper, Bogdan Bogdanovic. Oh, my God. Redo. Yeah, redo, Kevin. Trying to help you. I'm with you. Even Reggie. Look at Reggie. He looked away first. He was literally his head turned the opposite way. Yeah, unbelievable. Reggie was done with it. JC, I'll give you one trivia I heard in the NBA. LeBron James has played against how many father-son duos in the NBA? So he's played against their father and their son. Not at the same time, obviously, but he's played against them. How many has he played against? Yeah, how many has he played against? It's got to be a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't. He's 15? Played. What? 15? 11. So that's a good guess. So that's still a pretty good guess. But he's played against a lot of father-son dudes. I thought that was pretty wild. I know. Because not only that, just you have to have the. Yo, you think like when those kids get on the court, the first thing they say to them is like, "Yo, man, my dad's got stories about when you dunked on him when you first." The league, like, it's just crazy. That's wild. Yeah, 4, 5.
That's a good comment. Luke and Booker, another father-son dude. That's a good one. So, yeah.
That is
All
a good
right.
one.
11 is the number, though. That's going to wrap it up for us on this show. Thanks a lot for joining us. Get in the Discord chat to get all of our final thoughts on the slate. But for me, Mangone, and JSU, we'll see you guys later.